Greens are coming for you, Rhaenyra. And for your children. Every man standing round the painted table urges her to plunge the realm into war.
You cannot bend the knee to the High Towers. They stole your birthright.
Lay siege to the Red Keep.
Send us.
I swear to ward the Queen.
Your cause owns a power that has not been seen since the days of old Valyria.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This is my House of the Dragon episode 10 finale trailer video. There's a whole bunch going on here, a whole bunch of Easter eggs, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. I'll start doing more season 2 videos as soon as we get through the finale next week, because we just started with the Dance of the Dragons, like it actually began, and we're going to start getting some battles in episode 10. Like, that is the beginning. The beginning of the trailer starts with Rhaenys immediately after leaving the dragon pit on Meleys, her dragon arriving on Dragonstone to warn Rhaenyra about what just happened. Like, she's still wearing her armor when she's talking to her in the map table room with Daemon. Like, look, they are coming for you. The Greens are coming, and they're going to kill all of you and your children. She's also the one to tell her that her father Viserys has died. The Greens just usurped the throne by naming Aegon II king and expelled all of her supporters out of court, or killed them in some cases. Speaking of the Greens coming for them, you see Otto Hightower with the Greens on Dragonstone on the bridge, which is meant to be a big callback to episode 2, where Daemon basically did the same thing with him, pulling his sword on them like they were going to throw down in the middle of the bridge. You notice she's still very pregnant with their third child, with Daemon's third child, who's a girl named Visenya. His Valyrian steel sword that you see him grab during the trailer is Dark Sister, which was previously wielded by Visenya, Aegon's sister wife. Because Daemon and Rhaenyra are so old school Targaryen, that's why they're naming their daughter Visenya. It seems like a lot of scenes in the episode will take place in the map table room at various times during the day during their battle planning meetings. And it is meant to be the same map table from the Game of Thrones series. They just refreshed it a little bit the same way that they did with the Valyrian dagger. Like, it's the cat's paws dagger, but they changed it to make it a little bit more accurate to real life. So that's why the Valyrian dagger on House of the Dragon looks different from the one on the Game of Thrones series, even though it's meant to be the exact same dagger. Same idea with the map table. It was built by Aegon the Conqueror after he'd visited Westeros growing up. It was before he decided to conquer the Seven Kingdoms. Like, when he was much younger growing up, he spent a lot of time flying his dragon Balerion the Black Dread around Westeros, just visiting different places around the different realms. Then he had the map table constructed. Then he had the dragon dream about the long night, the prophecy of a song of ice and fire that he called. And then he decided to conquer the Seven Kingdoms. It wasn't like he decided to conquer the Seven Kingdoms and then he had the map table built. When Daemon walks by and grabs his Valyrian steel sword, Dark Sister, I'm not sure who this Targaryen or Valerion is in the background here. It's a little too blurry to tell who it is. The thing is, though, is that during the Dance of the Dragons, there are a bunch of dragon seeds, because the more dragons you control, the more dragon riders you have, the more powerful your side is. There's supposed to be about 17 total dragons during the House of the Dragon series in general, during all 4 seasons that they'll do, and we're only going to see 9 during season 1. So when we're talking about dragon seeds, other dragon riders popping up, that gives you an idea of how many other people we're going to meet during future seasons. Daemon urges Rhaenyra not to accept Alicent's terms. Remember, she was going to send a raven. With the Greens' terms, she had to bend the knee and would be allowed to keep Dragonstone, and they wouldn't kill her, but she'd have to give up any claim on the Iron Throne. One of the big ideas during the Dance of the Dragons is that you have a lot of the men around these 2 women, like Rhaenyra and Alicent, obviously the Blacks and the Greens. You have a lot of the men around them on both sides telling them what to do. Without getting into a lot of spoilers, like, there's a ton of stuff that's going to happen during the Dance of the Dragons in the next couple of seasons. So on Team Black and Team Green, you have a lot of people making a lot of really bad decisions. Then we see Aemond taking off his eye patch, revealing the blue sapphire that sits where his eye used to be. We see it in the new intro scene here, like that's why there's a blue sapphire on here. Speaking of which, there are a couple other big changes to the intro scene. We see the 4th missing child of Alicent here, Daeron Targaryen. We'll see him during season 2. George R. R. Martin said they just didn't have enough time to get to him during season 1. For Aemond, there's a sapphire eye for his missing eye. For Aegon's symbol, there's a naked woman wearing a crown because he just got crowned king. For Helena's symbol, it's a spider which she was embroidering during the episode, which is a reference to her dragon dream about the Dance of the Dragons earlier. And we have the 3 children of Aegon and Helena, and they're all represented by the 6-finger hands. The reason why they're 6-finger hands is because Jaehaerys, their grandfather, the king before Viserys, had 6 digits on his hands and his feet. Then we see Rhaenyra's Black Council meeting. Now remember, the title of episode 9 was the Green Council. The title of episode 10 is the Black Council. So it's like Rhaenyra's version of what just happened in the Red Keep with the Greens. Each faction forms their own version of the small council. Rhaenyra's is just called the Black Council. I'm not sure who some of these Kingsguard are. We do know that Eric with an E, the other twin brother who got away at the end of last week's episode, who was advocating against supporting Aegon, winds up stealing Viserys' crown and bringing it to her so she can crown herself queen. But the whole idea here, and I explained this during my episode 9 video, is that the Kingsguard's loyalty is divided because of what's happened. So like some of the Kingsguard side with her and come to Dragonstone, but not all of them. I do know that this person here is Lord Bartimos Celtigar. House Celtigar is just another vassal house of House Targaryen that we haven't seen much of this season, but they're close by too. They're not quite as powerful as House Valyrian or House Targaryen, obviously. The symbol of their house is a crab, which will remind you of the crab feeder earlier this season. Although I'm not sure if the crab feeder was a bastard of House Celtigar. That would have been pretty cool, because the Celtigars do have some Valyrian blood in their veins. Lord Celtigar is the one telling her advocating for sacking King's Landing, and it's meant to be a big parallel for Daenerys sacking King's Landing later in the timeline, although not quite the level of burn them all that Daenerys went. Like, Rhaenyra doesn't go mad the way that Daenerys went. In the actual sacking of King's Landing doesn't really happen till way later in the Dance of the Dragons, so they'll probably save that for like a WTF moment at the end of Season 2, like Season 2, Episode 9 or Episode 8 or something like that. There's a lot of battles that have to happen before that. They plant their figure here at Winterfell for all those wanting the Starks to come back into the story. They become a much bigger deal later on in the Dance of the Dragons. They wind up siding with Rhaenyra, but it's Cregan Stark, the son of Rickon Stark, who was the former lord who bent the knee to Rhaenyra earlier in Episode 1. You have to remember that Rickon Stark was already very old, and that was almost 20 years ago, so I think the idea is that when the Dance of the Dragons actually gets started, like Episode 10, Season 2, Episode 1, his son, Cregan Stark, has already taken lordship of the house. But the big idea here is they're trying to figure out who all their supporters are around the realm and who they want to treat with, like who should we go to and ask for help. House Stark winds up being one of those houses. When Jacaerys says, send us, he's talking about Rhaenyra sending the children here, Jacaerys, Lucerys, Baela, and Rhaena on all their dragons, to all these different lords of the realm to try and treat with them and get them to support Rhaenyra. So unless they made some huge changes, Jacaerys winds up being the one to fly his dragon Vermax up to Winterfell to treat with House Stark. Supposedly, there's a rumor that he also fell in love with one of the Stark girls. Maybe we'll see some of that story during Season 2, we'll see. Remember though, Jacaerys rides Vermax, Lucerys rides Arax, who we see for the first time in the trailer, Baela rides Moondancer, and Rhaena rides a dragon called Morning. And all four of their dragons are much younger, way smaller than the other dragons. But they're way quicker too, way more agile. Eric brings Viserys' stolen crown to Rhaenyra. She crowns herself Queen of the Seven Kingdoms, and now you have two monarchs at the same time, Aegon II and Rhaenyra. Kind of like a smaller version of the War of the Five Kings. There's a bunch of scenes of Lucerys having a rematch with Aemond and Vhagar at Storm's End, so it sounds like Lucerys gets sent to Storm's End to try and treat with the Baratheons, and Aemond winds up flying Vhagar there to try and stop them. I don't think we've ever seen the exterior of Storm's End in this way. We saw the main chamber earlier this season in On House of the Dragon, just because, totally different show, different part of the timeline. They tried to feature different houses in different places that they didn't feature that much during the Game of Thrones series. Currently, during the events of Episode 10, the Stormlands are still being ruled by Bormund Baratheon, same person as before. He started as a Rhaenyra supporter, but his oldest son, the next lord, actually supports the Greens, so it's a big problem with their house, where their allegiance lies. Obviously, the big deal here, though, is Lucerys versus Aemond, because Lucerys, if he actually got into a drag-out fight with Aemond, wouldn't have a chance. Aemond himself is just physically way bigger. Vhagar is massive compared to his dragon Arax. It also seems like during this scene, Aemond winds up revealing his sapphire eye to Lucerys, like, haha, remember that time when we were kids? Rhaenyra's supporters say their cause holds a power that hasn't been seen since the days of old Valyria. That's because Team Black possess way more dragons currently at the beginning of the dance. And it's also meant to foreshadow the big reveal of Vermithor. Literal and metaphorical big reveal of Vermithor. So Vermithor was Jaehaerys' dragon before this. He hasn't had a rider since Jaehaerys died, but he's meant to be the biggest, oldest dragon after Vhagar. Not quite as big as Vhagar, but still really big. And that's basically what's happening in this scene here. Daemon going to the dragon caves on Dragonstone where Vermithor has been roosting to summon him, and he's singing a song in High Valyrian. It seems like Daemon is really enjoying what just happened. Like, yes, it's going to be crazy, but he's like, oh yes, we are going to go to war. There's going to be so much fighting. I'm going to have so much fun burning everything. There's also some parallels between what Daemon does during the beginning of the Dance of the Dragon, some of the opening battles, and what Aegon the Conqueror did during the conquest. Like I said, Daemon and Rhaenyra are both old school Targaryen, so they love doing things like Aegon the Conqueror did. That's also one of the reasons why their newest child is going to be named after Aegon's sister wife, Visenya. Vermithor's just been roosting on Dragonstone ever since Jaehaerys died many years ago, going riderless, but he's about 100 years old when the episode picks up, so he's had so many riders over the years that he's actually grown a little bit more comfortable around humans. He's still very temperamental, like all dragons. Like, they want him to seem really scary when Daemon goes to summon him, like, oh, by the way, we're gonna need your help. But it's really the younger dragons that you need to watch out for that tend to be more aggressive towards all people. The final scene of the dragons all leaving Dragonstone are either all the kids just leaving to treat with all the different lords that they decide they're going to try and get support from during the Dance of the Dragons. This red one might be Meleys and Rhaenys though, because it's a little bit bigger, but the smaller ones are probably Jacaerys and Lucerys on Vermax and Arax. For those of you wondering how they're going to end the season, like, they already had a really crazy moment with Rhaenys and Meleys inside the dragon pit. My early prediction is that Aemond will wind up killing Lucerys in revenge. Like, there's no way Lucerys could win against Aemond and Vhagar. And Aemond is vicious. Like, you saw him in the previous episodes doing all that battle training. Clearly Lucerys is outmatched by him. And what they might do is just have Lucerys' death be the huge WTF blow to Rhaenyra at the end of the season, and then they go for their revenge either at the beginning of season 2, or if they really want to blow through the plot in episode 10, they might also have them get their revenge during episode 10. But like, you have this whole idea that there are several big battles that happen during the Dance of the Dragon, so lots of big battles coming in season 2, and usually what happens is that Team Black does something, then Team Green retaliates, or vice versa. And speaking of Mysaria, a lot of you guys asking, at the end of episode 9, there was a random burning building at the end of the episode with a hooded figure just walking away after putting it to the torch. I think the idea is that was meant to be Mysaria's house being put to the torch by Larys' Strong's men, who told Otto Hightower, you could benefit from my help, because he was trying to get himself put on the Small Council and made the official Master of Whispers on the Green Council. And him torching Mysaria's house would make sense if he's trying to take control of this spy network inside the Red Keep, which currently Mysaria controls. Previously, Mysaria said that she would support Otto Hightower when they were meeting, but the retaliation against her, the burning of her house, would be a reason why she would turn against them and support Daemon and the Blacks. But if you spotted any other Easter eggs or references in the trailer footage that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments. And my full episode 10 video will post next week after they release it, but I do have a couple big bonus videos planned this week too, and after the finale, I will start doing more season 2 videos. Everyone click here for my full episode 9 video, and click here for all my other House of the Dragon videos. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.